Today we'll be exploring how real-world data and real-world evidence are transforming research and healthcare delivery in our region. We'll discuss all the challenges, the opportunities, and the future of leveraging real-world data and real-world evidence to improve our patient outcomes and healthcare decisions. So Islam, let's start with yourself. Bridging data gaps. How is IROS using real-world data to overcome challenges in clinical research, especially through its partnership with Diaverum?
Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you for having me here. So the real-world evidence is a big challenge here in our region. We have a lot of missing data related to prevalence of diseases. We have a lot of missing data related to the comorbidities for the patients. So we are working in enhancing this with the regulations, with the companies and all other stakeholders. So we believe this is a big challenge. And since we are now with Diaverum, we are expanding IROS to KSA in the partnership with our colleagues from Diaverum KSA. And we are really excited about this partnership because will help us to tackle a big challenge related to kidney disease and the comorbidities related to kidney disease, which is in our region, it's a very high prevalence related to this. So we are opening our office there. We are in the final stage related to the regulatory approval, and we are excited for this opportunity, and we are really looking forward to all the partnership that we will have with the Diaverum team there.
Wonderful, thank you. And over to regulatory alignment for our next question. What steps is IROS taking to align real-world research with regulatory expectations in the region to ensure greater acceptance and faster decision-making? Islam, this one's for yourself.
One of the things that we are working at that and we are feeling it's pending here in the region is the regulation related to the real-world evidence. So what we are doing is that we are collaborating with the regulators from different countries to put a clear regulations and guidelines, especially for the RWE, and not mixing it with all the clinical trial and the regulation for research in general. And this is what we are hoping to have, because RWE consists a lot of data. There is a lot of data restriction in our region and mainly globally also. But what we need to make sure is that the availability of the regulation that can help all researchers from different academics, everyone to can access this data, can make research and can have a right outcome that will help the patient at the end. So we are working closely with the regulators related to this. But also we are aligning and making sure of all what is ongoing in FDA or EMA as a regulation related to this, because we believe this is a key important, because most of the global projects are not only specific for a country, but covering all the globe. So what we need to make sure is that the regulation coming from our region is also in alignment with the regulation coming from US or European Medical Agency, to make sure that we are representing our population in those projects.
Wonderful, and that takes me really nicely into utilizing clinical data next. And Ali, as a leader in the KSA healthcare ecosystem, I'd like to hear your perspective on what the biggest challenge is in harnessing clinical data in Saudi Arabia, and how this collaboration with IROS is addressing it.
Thank you, Dr. Hannah. First of all, I thank you for this question, but I really would like to say that I'm so happy that we're sharing this stage today with esteemed colleagues, where we're really utilizing not only the data, but also the brain and the mind of the people within the organization. So I really would like to thank everyone on stage here and everyone listening for that. I think in terms of whether we're looking into the region or in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, there are a number of, I would say, chronic issues that we have had within the industry. I think breaking the silos is one thing, because healthcare has been historically been delivered in fragmented way, in one way or another. And this is our opportunity to break those silos, to ensure that the best of what everyone is doing is being shared with each other, to ensure that we get the utmost of that data. So I think what is happening right now in the kingdom is how to power decision making, utilizing the data. And when we say power decision making, is by having informed decisions where we really look into real-time research an evidence-based approach to be able to get the utmost of the care delivery. So we don't have different institutions within the same pathway, as we heard in the previous discussion, where a lot of comorbidities are going on for kidney patients, and you have different approach from different parts of the healthcare industry. So I think this is what we would like to see, is to power that and accelerate that work with the collaboration with IROS. Because being now in Saudi for the past 15 years almost, caring for more than 10,000 patients, kidney patients, I think we are in a unique situation with standardized data sets to ensure that we really have a proper way of categorizing the data and ensure that we can also structure it in a way so we can get out the most out of the research and ensure that we have evidence-based decisions. And this is what we see is this cross-sector collaboration is what is going to fuel the industry moving forward and is gonna definitely empower us and enrich us in taking any decisions that we're doing in the care delivery. We're not working in silos, and we don't want to be at the forefront on that one. And more specifically, because I think many would like to do collaborations, but I think one of the things that we discussed with Dr. Islam and the rest of the team is that how can we have the first pilot? And the first pilot is where we're really going into a research study, which will be the largest and the most unique in the Middle East, targeting sarcopenia and malnutrition for kidney patients. And I think this is the first time that we will also be able to have targeted interventions in a population that is not general. However, we're really going into the demographics, to the background, to the comorbidities, which makes this collaboration and the approach extremely unique.
Wonderful. That was really interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. And that takes me into the scalability and sustainability aspect. What strategies can be implemented to expand and sustain cross-sector projects within KSA, within the KSA healthcare system, ensuring long-term impact and value creation?
I think in the previous panel they mentioned that Diaverum is a Swedish-born organization, and I think the origin of Diaverum came up from I would say the triple helix model, where academia, government, and private sector are working together. And this is how Diaverum came up in the 60s, and the first dialysis machines through Gambro were originated. So I think the triple helix model is part of our DNA. So here I would like to focus on triple helix in terms of collaborating between private sector to be able to foster innovation that really makes sense and goes beyond the general stuff, but really going in to target the real needs and the real struggles of the market, but also ensure that academia follows, so we all the time have real-time evidence-based research that will allow regulators and the governments to be able to decide for the future and have a much more predictive approach to that. So definitely a data-driven approach fueled with collaboration, but most importantly, I can't emphasize more the importance of having institutions like IROS in the KSA around the globe to be able to have the right partnerships, because I think sometimes healthcare providers, as much as we would like to fuel this approach and this type of collaborations, we also have a challenge that we might not have that specific subject matter expertise, and this is where companies and institutions and experts like what we have within IROS will be able to really guide us through this process.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the answer. So moving now towards the patient and Dr. Vidya, I'd like to explore how real-world evidence is shaping precision medicine, and specifically related to transforming patient care. So how is real-world evidence transforming the way we deliver precision medicine, particularly in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, to ensure a more personalized and effective patient care?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Hannah, for asking this important question and for giving me an opportunity to discuss this. So real-world evidence is truly transforming the way how we deliver precision medicine. By collecting data from various sources like electronic health records and wearable devices, patient registries, and surveys, it will enable us to gather insights that go beyond what traditional clinical trials offer. So with this breadth of information, it will help us to understand the patient outcomes, and it will also enable healthcare professionals to devise new patient outcomes, right? And then when it specifically comes to UAE and Saudi Arabia, so the precision medicine and the real world evidence supports the precision medicine strategies, especially in understanding or managing the population health. So this will help us to understand what are the prevalent disease patterns and what are the treatment strategies for these diseases in diverse populations in both UAE and Saudi Arabia. And if you think about utilizing the personalized information like the genetics, environmental factors, and lifestyle factors. So healthcare professionals can utilize all this information and devise a specific treatment strategies also, which can be implemented. And then we will understand what are the specific needs of our communities in these countries. And in both countries, there is a shift in regulatory framework as well, because they started to include the real-world evidence in the approval process for novel treatments. So this is a game changer because this will allow quicker access to new treatment strategies for patients where it aligned how it works in real world setting, right? So this is actually happening in both UAE and Saudi. So overall, in my opinion, real world evidence is transforming the way how we deliver precision medicine. And as we harness data analytics, I believe that it will have even greater impact on the patient outcomes and the care delivery model. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And to talk more now about translating the real world data into those insights, what strategies are being implemented to translate real-world data insights into actionable changes that directly improve patient outcomes at point of care?
Thank you. That's a very critical question. Thank you so much. And because, here we are talking about how we can integrate the real-world data analytics into actionable items, right? So here I will discuss a couple of items. The first and foremost is expanding the interoperability. And second one is development of clinical decision support tools. And third one is education and training for our healthcare professionals. And last but not least is the continuous feedback loops. So if you think about enhancing the interoperability, just imagine that if we can seamlessly integrate data that is coming from diverse sources, that will give healthcare professionals to make informed decisions, and also they can make recommendations, which is like evidence-based. So that is very important. I know we need to make sure that data is interoperable. And the second one is development of clinical decision support tools. So this is also helping the healthcare providers to make evidence-based recommendations. For example, in clinics, it can support clinicians to provide certain disease strategies based on the previous settings, similar cases. So they can retrieve that information and utilize that knowledge. And third one is education and training to our healthcare professionals is vital, because nowadays we are utilizing the real world data analytics and we are using more technologies and tools. But we need to make sure that our healthcare professionals are comfortable and they should make use of these novel insights. So by providing training to understand how to interpret the data and what is the application. So it's important that we make sure that our healthcare professionals implement these novel technologies from real-world data into their routine clinical practice. And finally, the continuous feedback loop. That is also very important, because by continuously assessing the impact of what kind of improvements patients have after implementing these changes, we can actually refine our strategy and then make sure that we can enhance the patient outcomes, right? So this kind of iterative process will enable us to tackle any new challenges. I mean, we can adapt ourselves to new challenges that are coming, and also we can improve the care delivery model. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for such a comprehensive answer. And to now look at a study and see it in action, Marco, innovation is at the heart of your work. Can you please tell us more about your COVID-19 vaccine safety study, which was, I believe, published in Nature recently? Specifically, can you tell us and share some details about the novelty of the design of this study and how such methodologies can shape the future of surveillance studies specifically and healthcare initiatives?
Yeah, sure, certainly. First of all, thanks for having me, and great to share the stage with all of you. So this COVID-19 study that was published, rightly so, last year in Nature, it was about essentially a study of like the safety of the vaccine, of the COVID-19 vaccines in the general population in Abu Dhabi. And it was done so by leveraging like the wealth of real-world data that we acquired within like our healthcare information exchange that we have running in Abu Dhabi since 2019 now. And the novelty of that study is that it was essentially designed to actually be implemented in real time and to allow surveillance of vaccine safety throughout time. And the interesting thing about this peer review process of Nature is that they actually publish these back and forth between reviewers and authors online. So it's a very transparent process. So people can go there and see why this why this methodology was adopted and why other methodologies were not adopted. And I think there are a couple of implications that the study found. So one is, first of all, I mean, it demonstrates that it is possible to leverage real-world data and real-world evidence studies to monitor potential associations that exist between health outcomes and the treatments that we are conducting. The second point that it leverages was, or that it pointed out, is that you can a little bit easily identify certain subgroups that are at risk of those treatments and of those outcomes, which is quite interesting. And then, of course, within the real-world evidence Nature, it's interesting to see like these studies coming out that could leverage like drug repurposing potentially, like and reusing those drugs for different treatments, and patients will benefit from the better outcomes and the clinics as well. So I do think that there are quite a lot of things that can be brought by leveraging real-world data and real-world evidence to showcase or to even implement this, as Dr. Vidya was mentioning, like in real life, and people making use and policymakers making better decisions and decisions that are driven by data.
Wonderful, thank you, and a huge congratulations to yourself and your team for your publication. I'd like to dive in a little bit deeper and ask how AI contributed to this huge data set. So I believe your data analysis included, was it 1 million individuals in the data set? So can you tell us a little bit more about that aspect of the analysis?
Yes, certainly. That's where I think we believe that AI can actually help a lot, which is, first of all, it can parse data a little bit quicker. It can go through the 1 million data records a little bit easier to analyze and critically evaluate the data quality that exists in these data sets, and to later on use them within these studies. So it is quite useful to use AI for those purposes. The other thing that was used for, it was mainly to parse like medical notes and all the unstructured data where all the richness of medical records lie, which is quite interesting because they can parse these unstructured data and they can enrich even further these real-world data that are posteriorly used in these studies. And of course, I mean, I do think that even looking a little bit like on the next years, I think for those of you who pay attention to stock markets, probably you saw like some interesting things happening yesterday. So the interesting thing, or what the main message that comes out of there, is that AI is now at a stage where you can essentially assimilate data from different types. So you can combine imaging, you can combine health records, you can combine even genomic data to potentially even help and aid even further these studies. So yeah, it's quite an interesting thing. And of course, the other thing that people typically talk about when they mention real-world evidence is essentially accelerate potentially the drug development phase. So essentially, you can accelerate drug development by potentially make up or even like design faster protocols that allow you to move on and to conduct your study. It can also enable, as Dr. Vidya was mentioning, precise cohort selection to test and to guarantee or to make it a little bit more probable a successful clinical trial where a lot of money is spent. And of course, similar to the COVID-19 study that we did, of course, it can use on like these phase 4 of clinical trials for post-marketing surveillance to guarantee that there are no long-term side effects that are very, very typically very difficult to grasp from a short clinical trial that have a specific budget to do. So I do think that these are like the opportunities that lie ahead for real-world evidence. I do think, just to put like a caveat on the main challenges, I think the main challenge is to essentially like guarantee that patient privacy is ensured and data protections are ensured. I do think that the European Union AI Act essentially provides a good framework, a crucial framework to kind of like for us to adhere to these regulatory issues or points that they raise, and at the same time still innovate and still take advantage of all the wealth of new methods, new AI models that are coming up and disrupting stock markets around the world.
Wonderful, thank you. I think we could talk for a long time about this. Thank you for such a comprehensive answer as well. So I think we can all agree that it's been a very insightful discussion, so thank you very much. And I'd like to turn our attention now to the future. So please feel free to jump in, everybody. But Islam, maybe you can kick us off with how does IROS envisage the role of real-world data and real-world evidence evolving in the next 5 years? And what are the immediate priorities to achieve these goals?
We believe that the real-world data and the real-world evidence will be the key for everything related to the research in the upcoming 5 years. And actually it started, because if we see that we are going toward precision medicine, targeted medication, all of this will be built based on a real-world data that is available, and we can analyze what is needed and for what each patient, what is required for him. Without this, we cannot be moving forward. So we consider ourselves that we are lucky because we are part of a group that have like a one-stop shop. We have all the genomics data. We have the Malafi, which is related to patient records. So all of this combined together, we can have a solid data set that we can build on the real-world data. We are working also with the regulators to enhance, to have this regulation part, because we believe this is a big gap. And one of the things that Marco mentioned related to the AI, including regulation for the AI, this is a need now. We need this to be implemented because this will make our life easier and make a quicker timeline related to even the data analysis. I believe for IRIS, we are looking forward to be a leader in the region because we believe that we have a unique capabilities, and we are part of a unique group that can support us to be in a leader position related to this. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'd like to open the floor now to any questions. If anyone has any questions? No? And in the meantime, if anybody else has any comments on future avenues? Ali, please.
I think building on what Islam said, I think this is what will foster innovation. And if we cannot prevent people from getting sick, let's make sure that we can get into the I would say, building on the data sets and the research, make sure that we can say, if we cannot prevent them from getting sick, we can save their lives, we can save their organs, and not to treat everyone as the same. I think there are so many different complexities that Dr. Marco mentioned and Dr. Vidya mentioned, and this is where this type of collaboration will make sure that we elevate to a completely different level.
Wonderful, and very well said. Thank you. So I'm just checking if we've got any questions. No. So wonderful. I think that's a perfect place to close then. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of our panelists for your insights and expertise. It's clear that real-world evidence is fundamental to shaping the future of our healthcare here in the region and in Saudi Arabia. As we move forward, collaboration between CROs, healthcare providers, and technology leaders will be key to unlocking the true potential of real-world data. And finally, thank you to our audience for your attention and engagement, and I hope this sparks new ideas and collaboration in this space. Thank you so much.